Chapter 32, The Pequod Meets the Delight. The Pequod Meets the Delight. Although the witch intended to clash against Clown Muffle in a final, spectacular fashion, she had learned from past mistakes, and internet hearsay. Rumors circulated. All Washington was drenched in black material, the same seen on the walls during the press secretary's show, and this material apparently killed whichever magical girl touched it. Even with her broomstick, the witch could not consider herself immune. She needed to confirm these rumors and determine a way to counteract the effects. She also needed to know what had even happened, whether Clown Muffle and the cat alone controlled the city with the help of this President DuPage, or if others pulled certain strings. So she needed to ask someone who would have been there when it went to tatters. Cube couldn't cut it, he had been mum since the incident. She went to Chicago. In Ottawa, during the day, parts of the city functioned as a city. Dawn rose upon a Michigan gouged by Godzilla's claws. What the people did down there she could not discern, but they were there and they did something, with giant machines, digging. Ice storms did half the work. The month was April. Maybe they dug a little warmth from the dirt. The lakes, on the other hand, were as quiet as they ever were. She detected 5 magical signatures in Chicago. She did not know whether that were less or more than she expected. 3 of the signatures were grouped together on the lake, near the coast. The other 2, separate, appeared deeper in. She decided to approach the group over those in solitude. Once she drew close enough to see the miasma that flowed amid the skyscrapers and drained into the lake, and oriented herself better to the local topography, she discovered her targets drifted in a houseboat upon the icy water. She hailed telepathically as she descended, "Hello. I'm a magical girl. I mean no harm. I only want to talk, and I'll be on my way." She figured no sane girl would waste energy fighting her. The problem these days was not resource scarcity. Lunacy, however. Lack of response unnerved her, but she stuck to the plan and landed on a flat second-story deck. The boat looked like someone cracked off part of an apartment building and floated it to sea, perfectly quadrilateral. It bobbed, swayed. She kept hold of her broom and rapped the rickety door. "Hey, hello? It's me. I'm a magical girl. I don't want to fight. I just want to ask some questions about the empire that used to be here." Footsteps tromped upstairs from inside and a face appeared at the window. The door opened, the witch braced for a rough or at least suspicious welcome, but the figure who stood before her wore a bright smile and clapped her hands close to her chest as she teetered on a single heel. "Lovely. What a pleasant surprise, a visitor." She wore a white cape clasped around her neck by a gold-embroidered collar. She shouted over her shoulder, "Mia, Riley, I'm letting her in." A prick in the witch's wrist caused her to look down. She had a syringe sticking out of her. She had not noticed any motion from the girl. Sleight of hand. But don't worry, Poppet. If you're an honest young thing, you'll never find out what I injected you with. But if you're, shall we say, deceitful." She withdrew the syringe and slung it into the folds of her cape. "Now, time to pretend I never did that and act friendly like, My modest name is Leah Roth, now come with me, you'll meet the others." The witch expected some such reaction. Vague hospitality mingled with less vague threats. She followed Roth into the boat, down the stairs, to a windowed room with its windows coated in black paper and a lantern on a round table around which the other 2 girls sat. They played a game. Monopoly. Silver pieces thronged a board congested with property. Pointless dollar bills piled in stacks. One face, perched atop clasped hands, glared in concentration. The other was, the witch recognized her. Couldn't tell from where, but she remembered her long ponytail, her careless grin as she shook over her head a pair of dice she eventually deposited onto the board and proceeded with a cheer and a finger shoved into the face of her wincing opponent.
Mia. Riley. Please. Possess you no concept of hospitality? We have an honored guest. Apologies young miss, I swear to you on my honor we are a poor representation of the fabled Holy Empire of Greater Chicago. Alas, our esteem has dwindled these difficult months.
The player on the losing side of the roll shot up and fired a finger.
Quiet, Berwin. Your mockery's bad enough when it's between us. If anyone besmirches the name of the Empire, it's you. Aw chill Mia, you're just mad I snagged Boardwalk,
said the other as she slammed her piece 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
The waterfront belongs to me. Your days are numbered, Mia. My name, to you, is Darien. Please Peppermint,
said Roth.
You ought to have realized by now that your constant insistence on that fact is why she continues to call you that. Yeah, either way, my property please, Miss Banker.
The ponytail girl turned to Roth and noticed the witch. A glimmer of recognition flashed, but her memory of the witch seemed as tenuous as the witch's of her, as she bounced upright and waved her finger up and down, while bopping her forehead with her other wrist.
Ooh. You're, who are you again? When I was a member of the Empire my name was Palos.
The ponytail girl's face scrunched. She shook her head.
Member of the Empire? Nah, that's not where I know you. I never heard of any soldier named Palos,
said Darien, or Mia, or Peppermint, eyes narrowing.
You, Berwin? Nope. Though I must admit I was not an encyclopedia on our many members, so let us not leap to hasty conclusions, Pepper.
The ponytail girl smacked her hands together.
God. Damn. You're that chick who showed up in Denver. The one who asked where Clown Muffle went.
Memory flooded back. A blizzard, the porch of a gated mansion, a girl who laughed and pretended to smoke an imaginary cigarette.
Collins. On the money. But that's a dead name now, we all got dead names now, am I right?
She nudged Roth's ribs.
Mine's double dead. I'm Riley now. Tarsus schmarsus, I'm Paul already,
said Roth, an apparent in-joke only she got.
That whole title thing was a tad passé, I think we can all agree in retrospect. Young people groping for a sense of legitimacy they did not possess. Can all agree except Miss 5K in debt.
Riley indicated Darien with a thumb. Darien had seethed the whole time. She perpetually appeared on the verge of interjecting but bit her tongue each time. The dim lighting intensified the severity of her gaze. She stood taut between her limber laughing compatriots. When a lull finally came she managed to speak.
Lieutenant Kenosha's recognition lends you some credibility, Palos, but if you came here expecting handouts, you'll receive none. You're a deserter, and were times not what they were, you would be executed.
Roth rolled her eyes.
No, she wouldn't. Peppermint, baby. Please.
She leaned confidentially to the witch.
She's not normally this uptight, I dunno what's gotten into her. I want no handouts. I want information. I intend to destroy whatever has taken over the capital. I intend to restore this world.
The three stared back. The conviviality of the wobbly two drained. Collins, or Kenosha, or Riley, chewed. Roth maintained a smile sickened by the stringent arch of her brows. Darien did not change.
Is that so?
Said Roth.
Don Cha think if it were so simple it'd be done already, Poppet. I know the woman who lives in Joliet's mouth. I think we all know her,
said Darien.
Is that supposed to make her any less untouchable? Yea, don't think Miss Muffle's gonna lose a fight. Ever. Cook, Cicero, 40 goons couldn't stop her. She can be beaten,
said the witch.
I've seen it. Even when she was at full power. You know she came to the Empire with her soul gem cracked? How do you think that happened?
Silence.
It was me. Me and one other. We attacked her. She beat us, but we did that to her.
The witch tactically adjusted the details.
So does that mean she has a weakness? Something that can be exploited?
Said Darien. The witch had not thought of any such thing. In her head, she imagined she might talk to Clown Muffle, say something to bypass her emotional defenses, or else simply die, either scenario equally desirable. But as she considered how, even with a terrible plan and no real combat expertise, Hemet somehow damaged Clown Muffle's soul, she formed a theory.
She's a lot stronger as an underdog than the opposite.
Once she said it, she realized how stupid it sounded. Riley and Roth laughed. Riley said,
"Bitches these days, I swear."
It was only Darien's hard, serious stare that lent the witch's claim a little credence, and as the witch dwelled more upon the logic, she recanted her hasty self-dismissal. Yes. Wasn't it so? Clown Muffle had always operated on a logic all her own, divorced from the logic of this world. They kept ramming against her with their real-world rationality and burst into flames each time. Yet somehow the weakest, most pitiful challenge had crippled her. Darien's trenchant voice, rather than being interrupted by the jokes of the other two, silenced them.
She's right.
Roth winced.
Pepper, please. Flossmoor said it herself, before we fought her at the Capitol. She said, the more you send, the worse they become. She wanted us to only send one soldier to fight her. Dunno about that,
said Riley. Roth pushed the witch against a wall and hissed into her ear,
"You need to stop. You cannot do this. She is not mentally well, she is barely hanging on. I have done everything in my power to heal her, you cannot undo it. I will not allow it."
The witch remembered the unknown fluid currently coursing through her veins, but more than that a sincere pang of regret pinched her heart.
"I'm sorry," she said. "That was not my intention. I only want information and I'll be on my way. Nobody else needs to be dragged into this." "Then let us tell her,"
said Darien.
"I am not afraid of the past."
So they told. They sat around the Monopoly table and spoke. The atmosphere changed, Darien dominated it, although Roth did most of the speaking amid Riley's irrelevant interjections. In fact, Darien barely spoke at all, staring at the witch from a cross-thatch of fingers, while the entire story played out in terse, muddled, obviously censored sentences. The story of the Capitol, the Senate chamber, the unknown magical girl who claimed an Archon was coming, the manifestation of Clown Muffle on the National Mall. Cicero and Cook's forces combined to fight her, their, hastily described, defeat. The black ink that spawned from the Capitol dome, the voice of ex-Centurion DuPage within it. The story had holes, some more obvious than others, some a byproduct of legitimate gaps in the teller's knowledge, some intentional omissions. Nobody could say for sure what fate befell the Empress, Cicero, Aurora, Hedwig, the other soldiers. Roth applied a cheery optimism to this fact, an implication they survived much as Joliet and Clown Muffle somehow had, although the witch detected her artifice. Nobody knew the identity of the magical girl who warned about the Archon, or how an Archon even spawned, unless it had something to do with the people Clown Muffle killed during her rampage.
A definite possibility,
Roth added. They confirmed that any magical girl who touched the black ooze died. The witch had hoped for a clearer line connecting the Clown Muffle who left Ottawa with the one who lived in the cat's mouth. Too many details remained obscure.
You three are the only ones left,
she said.
Of course not,
said Roth.
I think it was 14 of us who escaped the capital. 15,
said Darien.
Chicago's a total wreck, though,
Roth continued.
We three are skilled veterans, yet we can't even live in the city proper. The others relocated to safer realms. There was a girl, where was she from? Sent a bulletin online. Fargo. Fargo. Chicago may be post-apocalyptic hellscape but a small, isolated city like Fargo? According to the bulletin, it's a nice place for a decent-sized clutch of young ladies. The main girl said she'd help anyone who swung by. So Schomburg led a group that away. My radar indicates 5 magical girls in this city, including you 3.
Roth and Riley communicated wordless bewilderment at this number, which resolved when Riley gave an apathetic shrug.
One's gotta be, some nomad, someone who stumbled in, I'm sure they're dead soon. The others Valley. Centurion Cook,
said Darien.
She always hated that name. I'd be like, yo cook, looks like there's too many cooks in the kitchen, and that was just about the only way to, make her actually mad. So of course you said it as often as possible,
said Roth.
Well yeah.
According to Roth's story, Cook had actually met the magical girl who warned them about the Archon. She had a closer relationship with the Empress and accompanied her to Washington prior to the invasion. She also better knew DuPage, under whom none present had served.
I'll speak to Centurion Cook,
she said. Before she rose, however, a new voice cut into their conversation. I can't tell yet whether your actions are the byproduct of irrational despair or some logical purpose. It had been a long time. Since January the incubator had grown withdrawn. He manifested infrequently to collect cubes and refused all attempts at communication. It had become easy to forget his existence. The witch started in her chair and glanced around. He appeared between them on the table, atop the unfinished Monopoly board. His body had a gash along his side, but otherwise he had not changed.
Begone, strumpet,
said Roth.
Shoo, shoo.
She waved part of her cape at him.
If you finally decided to speak, I can only imagine it's important,
said Darien. That's correct. Recent events have required me to limit my interactions with magical girls. I've been especially busy, just as you've all been. The level of despair seen on this planet has only been matched in certain theoretical scenarios. I must admit I've lacked the adequate resources to collect its energy.
Trouble finding enough new magical girls,
the witch said. That is part of the problem. Either way, I'm afraid I can't stay long. This body will be needed somewhere else soon. Nobody present, of course, had any cause to trust him. Some displayed more open suspicion than others, but none more than ARandomAudiobookAppeared.
Then is this preamble needed? State something of substance.
Of course. He paused. He stared only at the witch, but something in his demeanor seemed to regard the other three as well. I'll say this, as it stands, your odds of defeating Miss Viscara, let alone the Washington Archon, are 0. You can be assured that this is a calculation we have checked and rechecked numerous times.
Then it's not something any sane person should be considering,
said Roth.
He lies,
said ARandomAudiobookAppeared.
He doesn't want anyone destroying that thing. It's generating a treasure trove of energy. Why else would he bother to tell us this?
While I will not bore you with specifics, I will state that although the current situation was initially desirable, it has reached an unsustainable state. Wraiths have become so plentiful that magical girls are dying before they can garner a net positive in energy. Allow me to explain. When each new magical girl makes her wish, she uses up a large amount of energy all at once to turn it into reality. In a sense, then, every magical girl starts
in debt.
Depending on the wish, it may take a magical girl a week to pay it off, or several years. A large part of choosing prospective magical girls is based on my prediction of their wish, my approximation of their debt, and my assessment of their ability to survive long enough to repay it, and from then on generate profit. Miss Roth and Miss Matthews paid their debts long ago and have produced many years' worth of profit. Miss Abgarian and Miss Leva have also paid off their debts, but more recently. However, many magical girls cannot say the same. I never expected the situation to become as dangerous as it has. It has only reached this state due to the unforeseeable circumstance of an Archon that was willing to cooperate with rogue magical girls. But this planet now actually costs more energy than it gains. Magical girls are dying too quickly. Even powerful veteran girls who have long been a source of reliable profit die unexpectedly due to the staggering volume of wraiths. I could recruit plenty of additional magical girls, but my calculations indicate that few of these will be able to repay their debts. As such, this planet has transformed from our most promising source of energy to yet another resource drain. He sighed. Hammett taught the witch enough basic economics for her to follow the gist of what he said. Riley had tuned out, ARandomAudiobookAppeared had drawn in, and Roth kept flitting nervous glances. This scenario is, sadly, more common than we'd like among species capable of reversing known laws of thermodynamics. It always happens in such a way, some minor, unexpected miscalculation, certain members of the species acting in a completely illogical manner, and then the fundamental nature of the planet is altered to an unusable state. This is not even the first miscalculation for this planet in particular. However, I was able to rectify these previous miscalculations, and it was expected I would be able to do the same again. Didn't he say he wouldn't take long? Once the true nature of the situation in Washington became clear, I assembled a team of the most powerful magical girls on the planet. No short-term resource expenditure was considered too costly in order to salvage the planet's viability. I promised them lifetime supplies of grief cubes for their cooperation. They were not only physically powerful but possessed abilities that would be particularly suited for fighting an enemy like the Washington Archon. I calculated a 99.99% chance of assassinating Miss Luce, the main reason for the global spread of despair, and a 76% chance of destroying the Washington Archon. I cannot enter that miasma myself, so I possess only a partial record of what happened, but it seems as though Miss Viscara eliminated the entirety of the team with little difficulty.
You didn't account for her in your calculations,
said the witch.
You saw what she did to us,
said Darien.
You should have known.
I did know. Even accounting for that, I came up with the percentages I did. It's clear, however, that I somehow misinterpreted the situation. Nonetheless, once this team failed without even accomplishing the objective that was considered a near certainty, it was decided that this planet could no longer be salvaged. My species has withdrawn almost all resources. I remain only to collect what can be collected from the magical girl population that already exists. So the world was really doomed. The witch knew that. She had always known that. It was hard to see what happened to Ottawa, to Gatineau, and not know it. Darien closed her eyes. She thought deeply, which only caused Roth to fret more nervously over her. Roth attempted a strangely unfeminine giggle and began some kind of casual remark, but Darien cut her off.
So you'll do anything you can to stop us from fighting back? You would much rather we linger as long as possible. That way, you can squeeze every last drop from this world.
Riley fiddled with a Monopoly piece, the boot. That is the rational action for my species to take. It is also the rational action for you to take, as individuals programmed for self-preservation. However, he sighed again. What these sighs meant, who knew? Everyone knew his emotionlessness. What use did someone like him have for a sigh? However, I must admit that this planet's predicament has cost something that has not happened in my species for thousands of years. It's cost a difference in opinion. All rational calculations indicate this world can no longer be saved. Any combination of magical girls I could organize to fight the Washington Archon would fail, at least according to the available data. Thus, the opinion of every member of my species bar one is in perfect harmony. The planet must be abandoned. We cannot waste more resources here. The differing opinion, as you may have surmised, belongs to me.
You.
Darien concealed her mouth behind her clasped hands.
You, as in, this particular white rabbit sitting before us.
All members of my species currently located on this planet are considered the entity me. While there are, or should be, zero differences in personality, capacity for rational thought, or intelligence among all members of my species, we are differentiated by the varied appearances we take. For instance, some members of my species possess aesthetic qualities designed to better appeal to members of a completely different species than your own. These superficial differences delineate identity in lieu of other unique features. I will not waste time delving into specifics.
I want to finish this game,
said Riley. Returning to my original point, said Cube, eliciting a massive groan, it is of my personal opinion that although all rational calculations indicate a certain outcome, there remains an unknown probability of an outcome for which our calculations cannot account. In simpler terms, I believe it is possible for a miracle to occur. Even Riley looked at him. She nearly spat, she laughed so hard.
Cube's got a spiritual side now, guys.
I believe this opinion, rather than being illogical, is based on logical precepts that can be explained, if not quantified. It is known that an entity who rules this universe as a god exists. It is known that this entity, rather than being a fixed law, is capable of unexpected caprice in its actions. It is known that the Washington Archon acts in ways completely unlike all previously observed archons, and thus it could possibly deviate from archons in other ways potentially beneficial to us. With these unknowns known, I believe enough reasonable doubt exists in our equations. I believe we should continue to strive for this world's salvation.
Riley laughed.
Roth laughed nervously.
Darien stared stolid.
The witch did not know what to think. For this opinion, my species has ordered my immediate execution upon the cessation of my duties on Earth. Although these unknowns are recognized, they are not considered significant enough for a logical being to reach the conclusion that I have reached. I cannot fault my species for desiring my destruction. I am a deviant and must be treated as one. However, I also cannot deny my own calculations. To do so would be to admit that I am illogical.
So you plan to help us?
Said Darien.
Can you be straightforward for once? What do you mean, help us?
Said Roth. I do plan to help. However, I have little I can offer. I retain almost no resources. I cannot conceive of an actual strategy that would prove victorious, so I can't even assist you tactically. However, I might be able to provide you with a way to safely enter the miasma in Washington.
Roth kicked a cabinet.
The whole boathouse wobbled.
No, no. No. This has verged on the absurd. Let him speak,
said Darien. But Roth's finger aimed at the witch.
And I expected more humility. I can't believe it. I cannot. This entire enterprise is suicide. Suicide. This world may have gone to pieces, but we have not. Do none of you understand? We have retreated to the final sanctum. We have surrendered the gate, the battlements, the main hall, but we have finally ceased our besiegers at our final portal. We can survive in this state. The world may not outlive us, but we can survive. We can be happy. We can carve a little happiness for ourselves. I want to finish this game.
Riley rubbed the dice against the tabletop.
The incubator has always been our foe. If the Empire ever meant anything to any of you, it ought to have meant that. To trust him, to even abide him as a necessary evil, is the true enslavement of our kind. He is our jailer, and each imagining a key confirms a prison. Damn this world! If I gave up so much of myself to live in it, then maybe it can give up a bit of itself to be my home. Jai-eok!
She stormed out of the room. Her footsteps tromped along the deck outside, and her body flashed in front of the sparse light that filtered between the black papered windows. The sound of her mumbling pierced the flimsy walls. The witch considered asking if she would be okay, but neither Darien nor Riley appeared distressed, so she said nothing. I implore you to act in the best interest of your species. Once you arrive at Washington, I'll send my assistants. Now, I must be going. Before they had a chance to reply, he darted off the table, slithered into the shadows, and vanished.
I didn't want to drag anyone else into this, said the witch. I think it's best if you guys stay here. I'll handle things on my own.
No, said Darien.
That woman, Clown Muffle, was once my mentor. Many people were once my mentor, everyone always seemed to want to teach me something. But she was my first. If anyone can win against her, it's me.
The witch refrained from remarking upon Darien's past with Clown Muffle. Clown Muffle had been around for years, so she must have mentored plenty of people, in the same narcissistic way where all her advice revolved around the insular world she fabricated for herself to escape the world around her. Now Clown Muffle's world was leaking out and this world could not contend. Before, things had felt more like a suicide mission with an outside chance the world might be restored. Now, it had started to form into something legitimate. The witch worried she might be dragging other people to their deaths. The witch worried she didn't care.
I'll speak to Berwin,
said Darien.
I've made up my mind.
She left the room.
So?
Riley tapped the tabletop.
Guess this game's finito. You still interested in speaking to Her Excellency the former Lady Cook?
The witch nodded.
That broom seat's true, right? Take me with, I haven't paid Val a visit in a hot minute. Good to get out of the cramped atmosphere. Especially since I imagine our friends might get to shouting soon.
That was a feeling the witch understood. Already on the deck the mumbled voice of Roth rose as Darien's harsh steps approached her. The Nazi and the Baroness recreated. She rubbed her wrist, where the mark left by Roth's syringe had already regenerated. She wondered what concoction had entered her bloodstream, if one had even entered it at all. Placebo perhaps. She seized her broom and led Riley outside. The temperature in Chicago reached the negatives. Despite daylight. Despite springtime. Ice coated the sides of skyscrapers in shingles. The wind whipped her witch hat and she remembered the cold day in Denver she met Collins, the Terminatrix in pursuit, the white breath puffing. Riley clung to her waist. Fog obscured the streets but the witch imagined it looked like Ottawa at night, more undead things than living. Riley swore she had no idea who the other magical signature belonged to, even when the witch detailed its position, but she pinpointed Cook's place not far from the coast. She had a chattering effervescence, she could not shut up. She rattled about anything that came to mind, and her hot breath thawed the nape of the witch's neck. She mentioned they used to watch Schrodinger's cat on TV, until one day Darien tossed the set overboard. She mentioned Cook somehow managed things by herself, they invited her several times to join them on the boat, where offshore they could sleep without worrying what monstrosities might crawl inside to eat them, but Cook liked things better on her own. The witch did not recall meeting Cook. Maybe she saw her once, during the speeches they gave in the Empire. She had no idea what kind of person she was. But if she lived alone in this city she must be powerful. The witch decided to recruit her. This was no longer a suicide run. This was real time. If Cube could believe in a miracle they all could. Hemet. This was your dream, wasn't it? To spearhead a crusade to fix our sick world. Well, your dream would be fulfilled, the world just got a lot sicker first. If Roth thought they surrendered most of the castle, then here was the charge to retake it. If imagining a key confirmed a prison, it also confirmed an exit. Her hands shook, and not simply from the cold. They tightened their grip against the tip of her broomstick. Cook lived, based on the vertical axis of the witch's radar, on or near the top floor of one of Chicago's endless skyscrapers, a four-tiered pillar emblazoned with the word Trump. Tall, but not the tallest, or couldn't be, because the unknown fifth magical girl had apparently reached an even higher altitude only a mile southwest, and when the witch glanced that direction through the mist and miasma, she spotted a monolith that could not be rivaled in this part of the world. No surprise, she figured, that the magical girls had taken to the vertical limits of the city. Safer, removed from the mire that collected in the streets, the same reason the original proprietors lived there, except society had upended and now magical girls held more real power than anyone. Humans of prominence either went to Washington or fled. Wasn't the previous president from this city? Nobody knew where he went. They landed on the roof of Cook's Tower. A helicopter and its crew waited there, men and a woman in Arctic parkas, headsets, and sunglasses. They drank from coffee mugs and steamed the misty air with their animated chatter.
"Here,"
they hailed as the witch and Riley disembarked.
"Here,"
said Riley.
"Magic business going on, friends of Miss Jefferson and all that."
"Sweet, sweet," said the helicopter crew. They pointed to the stairwell. The warmth was oppressive. The ecosystem shifted from tundra cold to sauna hot. They crawled downstairs alongside vines and coiled roots and fallen, rotten fruit. Rivulets and small waterfalls flowed in controlled patterns. The permafrost that the witch had built around herself for protection shattered and dropped away. She wheezed against a gushing root before she descended the full floor. Sap gummed her palms. The thick air constricted her lungs and inner organs. Riley's chipper demeanor sagged too. When they reached the base, a rippling pool of water clutched at the soles of their shoes. Signs of architecture stripped away, replaced by broad ferns and thick boughs. Apples, pears, papayas burst when stepped on. They brushed past a small tree and a flock of paradise birds flapped squawking against the canopy. A serpent bolted between the witch's feet, and despite everything, she shrieked and jumped into Riley.
"Christ, she did some serious renovation."
Riley pantomimed a machete and hacked a path for them through the denser sections. They figured they were lost until they found a grand piano interwoven with ivy and a golden pair of doors beyond it clear enough to open once given enough shoulder force. By now Riley had hailed Cook multiple times via telepathy and standard shouting, to no avail. Once she cracked open the doors and took a peek inside, she drew back quick.
"What?"
said the witch.
"Yeah. She's fucking. That's all anyone does anymore. Tell me about it." "I'll wait outside until she's finished,"
said the witch.
Yeah, thing bout Val is, she's never finished."
Riley jump-kicked the doors and they screeched open. The jungle opened into an Edenic clearing colored by pastel print flowers and lines of falling water. Minimal shafts of light streamed through the few flecks of windows that remained, and in the center, fanned in wide array, were men. Smooth, toned, she clearly had a type, nude of course, glistening from the gentle whirlpools and warm drizzle that pervaded the space, variegated only by race, in which they were as diverse as the fowl that watched from their perches and chattered lewd commentary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bodies lounging. And a 13th form, female, between them, the central point, around whom everything curled like the eye of a hurricane. Her body was as smooth as any of theirs, distinguished only by its prim, elegant frame, more androgynous in appearance than really feminine, especially with her legs crossed to conceal most of her nakedness. She extended a hand to grasp a bushel of grapes and pulled them closer to her mouth. The witch had seen all this crap before.
Valley, hey, how's it? Sorry to bargain, ya no thought we might have a talk or what?
Riley sauntered inside, waved at a few of the men who gave her a rousing cheer, descended into the lagoon up to her knees.
As you can see, we got ourselves a fun visitor.
Former Centurion Cook only seemed to notice their existence after she had shoved half the bushel of grapes into her mouth. She made a frantic murmuring noise as she tried to pull away from the fruit and only managed to spurt a thick dribble of purple juice down her chin. She mumbled as she swallowed.
Hi.
The witch slanted her eyes to a neutral side and composed her strategy in a millisecond of free thought.
Hello. You haven't met me, but I'm... Oh, but I remember. Murietta Temecula? Some tangly name like that? Running headless with your little witch hat, I'd remember that witch hat anywhere. Very memorable bend, at the top of the hat. Yes, I've heard others comment on the bend. We've met? But maybe you don't remember me? I looked a lot shorter back then. Blonder too, whiter. St. Louis.
Few memories remained from St. Louis. She remembered Clown Muffle. She remembered the Terminatrix. The other figures merged into a blur like the intermingled bodies before her now.
Hey, maybe a formal introduction,
said Riley. She stood halfway between them, both in distance and depth, gradually stepping into the cook side of the pool, pushing aside a muscular arm that reached for her thigh.
Valerie Jefferson. Riley Matthews. And the witch. Isabel Leyva. If I didn't forget,
said Cook.
I'm afraid I didn't take as much interest in your case as I ought to have. I was the one who brought you to the Empire after all? But I did peruse your file. She's a fun kid. Lots of fun. She had me in hysterics, you know? I forget exactly what she said, but I remember she said something to me and I couldn't stop laughing. Is that so? I always enjoy a good laugh. Everything is bearable as long as you're laughing. I like to laugh all the time. If you wanna laugh, you gotta play Monopoly. Funniest fucking game. Darien, you know, she's a card. Brainless ape. Buys nothing. Lands on a property, refuses to buy it. I cannot for the life of me fathom what she's saving for. She's still young. 13? 14? I only remember because Cicero made such a hubbub about her. Thought she would be the next centurion. Won't spend a cent, Urian.
Cook straightened her shoulders and forced her voice to a level of commandment that otherwise seemed impossible.
Wench, if thou deignest to bringest into this hallowed hall such abominable puns.
They had all lost the plot. The witch stood dumb in the doorway as Cook, Riley, the 12 men laughed sitcom style. A long dormant rage flickered inside her. Could there be no more obvious symbol for capitalistic decadence? The words of Hemet flickered inside her. She could revive within herself the old song. She could. She slammed her foot against the ground. The water splashed and clapped and nobody stopped laughing, but she shouted anyway,
"This world is dying. It is dying, people, it is sick and dying at the hands of the people in Washington, they are killing this world. None of you are ignorant to this fact. None of you can deny it, no matter what fabricated reality you've built for yourself. This world is dying. I am leading a team to save it. A revolution. We're going to overthrow Washington, overthrow this President DuPage you apparently know so well, overthrow the tyranny of Clown Muffle. We're going to cut out that cat's damn tongue and stake it on a pike. Do you understand? We are going to act. We are going to rise. We are going to save the world. Do you remember the old stories? The world in peril, a hero against all odds striving to save it? That story is now and we are its characters. This is our moment.
This was the moment the obtuse prospective ally fell silent, shaken from their languid stupor. This was when the hero's impassioned speech struck them to their core. The underdog socking the stone edifice of the system, whatever that system might be, whatever government or cultural inequality, this was Hemet reviving within her, a spirit possessing her dry cork corpse. The capitalist system, brought to its final conclusion, a suicidal self-genocide after endless consumption, left nothing to consume but our own pallid bodies. This was the Eucharist of the monopolists. Old man Moneybags. Of course Darien would be the one who refused to purchase a thing. But Cook never stopped laughing, not at any point during the witch's speech, until her laughter drowned it, a howl, until the water waved and rippled with the tremors that convulsed her body, and wheezing in the silent lull she said,
SS save. This world. It's not worth saving, dear. It is. It is. It is.
Said the witch.
Let it die, let it all die. Let humanity die, 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 let us all close our eyes into this peaceful sleep. Amen. We wrench the poison out by the root and we rebuild it better. Humanity was founded on moments like these. It's when the most is risked the most can be gained.
It became a labored breathing. Cook fought for control of herself.
Dear. Dear. Riley, you did not lie. I never do.
Like a good lieutenant she stood aside, arms folded behind her back, and brown-nosed.
Dear. Do you not realize who you're talking to? I was, once, first centurion cook of the Holy Empire of Chicago and its territories. Do you understand? I served as the right hand of her munificent empress. You weren't in the empire long, but do you know? She wanted to save this world too. Rewrite it. She dreamed of a society, a utopia, all magical girls working in harmony with humanity, our united goals pushing us to heights, breaking free of the incubator, forging our own destiny, healing all diseases, purifying the polluted land, producing food and mineral wealth to satisfy the 7 billion of us who exist and then some. She had all these grand dreams of revolution. She pieced everything together for years, collected everyone she needed, formed a strategy, even walked into the Capitol at Washington and held the Senate as her captive audience. And even she failed? Even her? After she had the gall to make me think she might win.
The same smiling laugh turned skyward and Cook's eyes shut. Riley needed an elbow.
And here you are. Isabel Leyva? Funny girl? Promising the same thing she did, but you're just a kid. A little witch on a broomstick with a cute bend in the hat? Save yourself some time, girl. There's nothing you can say to me.
The witch opened her mouth to speak. Closed it. She had no response. The entire framework behind her confidence was belief in a miracle. She had no real strategy, a vague notion she could strike some chink in Clown Muffle's armor nobody else would know about. She suddenly felt stupid.
Fuck,
said Cook.
I hurt your feelings, sorry, I didn't mean that. I'm a jaded, useless floozy. Nothing I say matters? But I'll tell you what I told DuPage when she asked me to jump into that miasma, I'm not dumb. And I'll add, I'm not worth it anyway.
The conversation did not progress past that point. Cook's jungle cabana rejected the sullenness the witch attempted to inject into it. Eventually she left. Riley stayed behind, to catch up. The witch fought her way back to the roof, ignored the helicopter crew, and took off. For curiosity's sake, she flew to the only tower in the city taller than Cook's, where the other magical girl lived. She did not have to search long, she found the girl standing atop the radio antenna spire at its apex, a single figure balanced on one foot, the other folded in some sort of yoga pose. She did not quiver. She wore a wind-eaten Christmas sweater.
Hello,
the witch said. She recognized this girl from Magnet. She posted a lot of pictures on the selfie board, where the witch had always lurked because she enjoyed the hate she felt toward Clown Muffle's posts. This girl, and her sister, had been Clown Muffle's favorites. So the witch had always hated her too.
Hello,
said the girl, who did not open her eyes.
How long have you been like this? A while. I'm going to Washington. To kill the cat and Schrödinger and President DuPage. Who? The people on TV. I don't watch. Oh. They're destroying the world. I'm going to stop them. Will you join me? No. That's fine. I didn't expect it. This world is all right for me already.
Her world was the top of a pin.
I see. But I'll pray for you. I'll pray. Okay. I'll pray.
End of chapter. Chapter end.